everyone, and welcome to Today with Dr. Beverly Emery. I'm Chris Runge. Thanks so much for joining us as we approach spring, and no one is happier about that than the folks here at the school system. We're going to talk more about that in just a minute. We're also going to meet our new Classified Employee of the Year. All that and much more coming up in just a bit. But first of all, thank you, Dr. Emery, for being here.
Great. Glad to be here, Chris.
It has been a long, tough winter so far.
Seems like it, doesn't it? It's hard to believe it's just the early days of March here.
It's incredible. We'll talk more about that in just a minute. But first of all, big news in the school system. The moves of Haines and Lawrence middle schools are complete. How did it go?
Amazingly well. Of course, last week you could either consider it the blessing or the curse that we had more snow days. I don't know that we would have been able to pull the move off quite so well if staff had not had time, particularly teachers, to be prepared. Over the weekend, though, one of the things I do want to say to our community is what an amazing outpouring of volunteer help and support. I was at Atkins with Lawrence folks on Saturday, and then at the Hill, Haines on the Hill on Sunday, and just the extra efforts, both of parents and community members, but also our own staff. It was kind of interesting to see principals from other schools and teachers from other schools who came to support their colleagues, and everything from just breaking down boxes to bringing food. Monday morning, I started my day at Haines at the Hill, but we visited all the sites, and of course it was very much like the first day or the first week of school. I think the biggest glitch is in transportation. When you reroute 1,200 kids, you're gonna have some of that. I spoke to both the principals yesterday, and it seemed like on day 2, much less, a lot of phone calls about, can you change my bus stop? But remarkably smooth, huge commitment of time and energy from our operations staff, who really are the key to making all this work. So while, depending on how you feel about the decision, that yes or no didn't bleed into the effectiveness of making this move as little a disruption to kids as possible.
And if people don't understand, Haines Lawrence, the kids are now split between 3 different campuses. So is this a temporary thing? Do we know yet?
Yes, we've used the words long-term and short-term rather loosely, so let me quantify that. At least through the 15-16 school year, where these kids are is where they will be. We don't consider that long-term solutions have been fully created, discovered, funded. Obviously, the first one of those out of the box will be Lawrence, finding them a permanent home and building an appropriate facility, which is really where all this started back in December anyway. And what the long-term solutions are for Haines certainly are pieces that the board will discuss, and likely in the context of an upcoming bond issue. We went ahead and made the decision for 15-16 because as a choice district, people are having to make choices about where their kids are going to go next fall, and we didn't want that uncertainty out there.
Sure. And finally, for folks that don't understand, the last time that we talked, less than a month ago, it was on the 5th of February. We didn't even know this was going to happen. So since then, in less than a month, 2 schools have been moved and split into 3 different campuses. You got to be proud.
I'm very proud of our folks. I do want to step back a minute, Chris, and quantify. We are 2 schools in 3 places. Next year, the one difference is that the children in the 6th grade who are currently at Smith Farm will be moved onto the Hill campus. So all of Haines will be on one campus, 6th, 7th, and 8th next year.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Now, we talked about winter and the snow and how that affected the move. You are used to Ohio winters, so this may not faze you. I don't know, but it has been a winter down here. It has been incredible, and now we're out of makeup days. So do we know what we're going to do, or are we going to sort of step back and wait to see if Old Man Winter makes another appearance?
All of the above. Our makeup days that we built into the calendar, yes, we have exhausted them, and we have to decide what to do with the other days. The board will have some discussion about that Tuesday night at the board meeting, and so I'm not sure whether we'll have decisions at that point. As a staff, our inclination is to discuss possibilities but not to finalize, because we don't know that, we hope Mother Nature is done with winter, but we don't know that. And the other piece to this is the notion that we're hearing from folks about you can forgive days because you have hours. And last year, our board did forgive days in the calendar, but this year we started early release days for staff training. And that was intended at the time to be the trade-off. It doesn't mean that our board couldn't forgive a couple of days. I don't know that they will. My concern as the superintendent is trying to protect instructional time as much as possible. And this is always difficult. People don't like you to make last-minute decisions about their calendar. However, making up days, it's really hard to make them up other than at the end of the school year, which isn't always the best time. So, should we look at spring break? Yes. As an old educator, I think we should look at spring break. The integrity of instruction during that time would be better. Unfortunately, spring break is just a few weeks away. People make plans well in advance, and so there's not any solution here that's going to work for everybody. And those are some of the hard things that we have to weigh. We've also been holding back just a little bit to see the governor declared at least one of those days in North Carolina a state of emergency, and we're anticipating there may be some clarification out of the governor's office. So perhaps if the state forgave a day or two, that would make it a little easier on our local board in terms of what they need to do. We see shifts in this. It seems like if we extend the school year like we had to last year, and certainly that's where we would add days this year at the end of the year, people get upset and say, why don't you use spring break? And then when you build spring break in as the makeup days, after people have to give up spring break a year or two, they go put it at the end of the year. So very cyclical. I think Theo told me that our average number of days has been 4, and last year I think that was more like 9. And so these have been 2 pretty rough back-to-back weather scenarios that last year I thought we had called all the days for my entire tenure as superintendent.
Oh no.
So, but in all things, I think it's just important for our community to know that just like the teams that help us make a move of 1,200 kids in one weekend, those same teams are deployed to looking at roads and road conditions and making sure walks and sidewalks and parking lots are safe. And in all things, we make a call that errs on the side of safety.
And playing off of that, a lot of people have their opinions. There are a lot of different opinions about whether you should go late, whether you should call off school, whether kids should walk to school in the snow. There's a lot that goes into that decision. This is quite a county geographically. It's very different from north to south. Parking lots at schools, sidewalks don't always get cleared off like roads do right away.
Exactly.
A lot goes into it.
Yes. And everybody has an opinion, and then, we listen to the news, and we can look at virtually every county around us, and there are big differences in Winston-Salem, Forsyth, and Guilford run 3-tiered bus routes. So people say, why don't you do a 3-hour delay? It's humanly impossible for us. If we don't do a 2-hour delay, then we're done. And because our buses are tiered, we don't have time to get that last tier of students to school before we're way into. So that's an issue. We've heard a lot of talk in the last week about snow routes and when main roads are clear, have kids. But a lot of times the issues are our own parking lots and our own.
Sure.
So We do the best we can, and I think our teams are very thorough. And while I know it creates some hardships for families, we had very few folks that were outspokenly upset about these last 2 weeks, because I think it was fairly obvious what we were up against. So
it was a lot. It was a lot of snow. Next time we talk, it'll be spring, so maybe
that's right.
we'll have some decision or sense of what we're going to do. State budget is getting ready to come out. The governor getting ready to announce that. Could be a raise for newer teachers. Looking at more funding for education, any extra funding? Do you have any sense of what's coming of it?
I think that the commitment made for increasing starting teacher pay is probably the most sound thing to count on. We certainly are hearing that there was a commitment made to raise that base pay, which is very helpful as we recruit in a time when it seems like we are being more and more challenged to fill teaching positions. Otherwise, not a great sense of the budget. It's been fairly quiet. I think that part of our concern is the state has projected a deficit, a revenue deficit, and so what does that look like for us, and what is the impact? We certainly would welcome a year with no reductions. Even if that didn't mean a whole lot of increase, it would be nice not to be having to figure out how to reduce something to pay for something else, which is sort of the way this has worked in past years. So I'm anxious. I think the governor's budget we will hear tomorrow, and while it certainly has a long way once it's introduced, at least it gives us a starting point for what some of the thinking is in Raleigh.
Okay. Speaking of Raleigh, they released report cards on the schools since we talked last. We also released our own grades. How did it turn out?
It was interesting that I don't think we had a whole lot of surprise there, and there were certainly a couple of negative reactions. Actually, it seemed we had more reaction to our own, why were we having our own report card versus just using the state. So, that says to me that we can probably do a better job as we move into a new round of year and what we believe will be continued grading of our schools, to be sure that our communities understand all the different ways we can measure schools. Improved attendance, improved discipline. There are a whole lot of things that we measure that don't factor into that grade, and perhaps that would give people a better sense of how their schools are doing if we were a little more detailed in helping to get that word out. So we've learned from this. Certainly it's our hope that the legislature might alter that to be a little more fair in what it reflects, but I don't think that the grades are going away.
Okay, we'll end on good news. Paisley Middle and Reynolds High School recently were recognized as 2015 Schools of Excellence. They're both magnet schools.
Yes.
That's a really big honor.
It's an incredible honor, and our magnet school program here is quite solid and strong. We seem to have winners state and nationally every year, and so this is very exciting, and I think it speaks well of the options that students have in our district. A lot of choices, and very good ones, and that's not the case everywhere. If you've never been anyplace else, you may get a little accustomed to it, but for those of us that are relatively new to this game, it's quite a wonderful opportunity, and I think that having a strong magnet program also helps us keep students who might need to learn in non-traditional ways or have unique interests that otherwise might choose options outside of our system.
Two good schools. I went to both of them. They weren't magnets back then, but they're great schools.
Great schools, yes.
All right. Well, let's hope things warm up by the time
we're
we talk
ready
next.
for spring.
Okay. Thank you for taking time out. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Chris.
We're going to meet our new Classified Employee of the Year right after this.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Searching for help with Dachshund breeding.
How can I help my daughter with her reading?
Information on hot water heating.
No. Sarah's bright, but when she's reading, she has trouble sounding out the words.
World music, playing track now.
No.
Let me try. Our daughter gets confused about which details in a story are important.
Which paper towels are most absorbent?
What?
Here are 5 product reviews.
Why are you not getting me?
See, I told you.
Wait, I was trying to show you how Sarah feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Hey, Hard, what's this?
That's my resignation letter.
You're resigning. Why?
Because you're constantly ignoring me, you're half as active as you used to be, and you get stuff like this. You've been putting me under a lot of pressure lately. That's why I'm ready to quit.
I forgot. I'll do better. Please, don't quit on me.
Okay, but remember, it's not what you say, it's what you do.
Listen to your heart. Don't let it quit on you.
Let's go for a walk.
Uncontrolled high blood pressure could lead to a stroke, heart attack, or death. Get yours to a healthy range before it's too late.
Why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Having trouble finding Connor's middle school? Would you like directions?
No, why is Connor having trouble focusing in school?
Finding lowest airfare to Istanbul.
No, I'm tired of fighting with him over homework.
Home walk restaurant. Need a review?
No, I need help. He's very smart, but his mind wanders. He's disorganized.
I think I understand.
Oh, good.
French fries. Finding best potatoes.
No!
Russet. Fingerling. Yukon.
Why don't you understand me?
Sorry, I was trying to show how Connor feels every day. Frustrating, isn't it? Redirecting to understood.org.
For the 1 in 5 kids with learning and attention issues, this is what life can feel like. Explore understood.org, a free online resource about learning and attention issues, designed to help your child thrive in school and in life. Understood.org, because understanding is everything.
Lots of times you hear us talk about our Teacher of the Year, and that's an award that is well-deserved, and it is handed out each year in the Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. There's a Teacher of the Year in each individual school, and then there's a Teacher of the Year for the entire school system. Teachers are considered certified employees. Other folks that work in the school system that are just as important, the bus drivers, the custodians, teacher assistants, they are considered classified employees. Well, they're important too. And there is also a Classified Employee of the Year award, and we'd like you to meet our newest Classified Employee of the Year. Javier Correa Vega normally wears a smile on his face, but this day his smile was bigger than usual.
Are the Classified Employee of the Year.
Thank you. Javier has just been crowned as the Classified Employee of the Year for Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools. Out of the hundreds of classified employees who work for us, Javier's zest for his job and life in general led him to victory. He takes great pride in his job as the Parent Involvement Coordinator at Philo Hill Magnet Academy.
My satisfaction to help these families, my satisfaction to see these kids happy every day, my satisfaction to see when I help this family to see those kids telling me, I got food in my house, I got roof in my house. Thank you.
Javier's road to the field of education actually began in law enforcement. He says his experience as a police officer made him realize that he can change young lives before it's too late. So he decided to trade in handcuffs for hands to hold.
In my experience in law enforcement, I see a bunch of kids. I saw a bunch of kids going to jail, juveniles, 16 and up. And at that time, I was like, I need to do something. I mean, something I can do to try to save these kids, these juveniles, from coming to jail. And this is when I decided to come to education. I was like, well, if I can make an impression, make those kids to realize that jail is bad, the street is nothing to do, there's nothing to do on the streets, we can help them out.
Javier is married to another school system employee, Ana Ortiz. They are both from Puerto Rico, where he learned that hard work pays off.
My desire to succeed, my desire to see these kids succeed in life. My family, I got a great family, we work together. Even my 12 years old, my wife, I mean, when we have a meeting, we work together. So that's what keeps me going every day.
Javier has a simple philosophy he draws on. He wants to help kids be successful. He does that each day at Philo Hill.
I told you from the beginning, just be yourself.
Yes,
where you were yourself, and that got you to this point.
Javier Correa-Vega is the 2015 Winston-Salem Forsyth County Schools Classified Employee of the Year.
And congratulations once again. We want to remind you that the Academic Competition Championship, it was a really good match, and it's running throughout the month here on Cable 2. Next month, we'll be doing our Poet Laureate competition, so keep that in mind as well. We want to thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you again next month for Today.
Thank you for joining us on your school channel, Cable 2.